Hey brothers and sisters, so I wanted to do a quick make a video connecting some dots of some things I've been thinking about regarding this current war with Russia and Ukraine. Now it is my worldview, my biblical worldview, that I come to an understanding that in order for this Antichrist system, this fourth empire, this fourth kingdom, as Daniel 7 prophesies, in order for this to come about, there needs to be some strategic moves made by the world's elite. And we all know, anybody that has discernment knows that Ukraine is just being used as a ploy to further their agendas. We know the first phase was the pandemic of 2020. A lot has happened and created opportunities for the globalists and the spiritual entities to further this Antichrist system. Now we see 2 years later, with great success, this idea of war being able to promote all in the manner of trying to fight climate change. We see back in November, the COP26 conference, everybody had their eye on that, and so I want to connect some dots. The first clip I want to play for you is the connection between Russia and the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, and his friendship with Vladimir Putin, and I want to include that clip here for you guys to listen.
Be done to ensure that people everywhere find peace and prosperity. Mr. President, the world is waiting to hear from you.
Спасибо. Уважаемый господин Шваб, дорогие коллеги,
dear colleagues, dear Klaus, I visited Davos many times, assisting meetings starting from the 90s.
All right, so he's visited the World Economic Forum many times, assisting in meetings since the 1990s. There you go. These two guys seem to be have a crush on each other.
Yeah, well, this talk of the significant there was the talk of Biden's renegotiation of the START treaty with Russia. And we've got to understand, Trump unilaterally cancelled that treaty because it was so good for Putin and so disastrous for America. And that treaty was negotiated, and Biden admits this, with the help of the Council for a Livable World. That was an organization set up by a Soviet agent to work for U.S. nuclear disarmament. A Soviet agent called Leo Szilard, a former scientist with the American Atomic Bomb Project.
Well, the connection here, brothers and sisters, is we see that Russia is working with the World Economic Forum to further this globalist agenda through war, and Ukraine is just simply a ploy to start war. Also notice that China and Russia are very close allies, and China has always been known as the template for the New World Order, the social credit system, and what it would look like in the Antichrist system in the 7-year tribulation. So you can connect Russia and China being allies with having a lot of resources. You can connect the war that's happening in Ukraine and how this is going to further the World Economic Forum goals. Now, their agendas are always clouded with different things, humanitarian things, social justice things such as climate change and more prosperity, but we know what their ultimate goals are. So with that said, brothers and sisters, I want to play for you another clip of what, reminding you of what Prince Charles said at this conference, this globalist conference, in November of 2021. Notice what he says here.
The COVID-19 pandemic has shown us just how devastating a global cross-border threat can be. Climate change and biodiversity loss are no different. In fact, they pose an even greater existential threat, to the extent that we have to put ourselves on what might be called a warlike footing. Having myself had the opportunity of consulting many of you over these past 18 months, I know you all carry a heavy burden on your shoulders, and you do not need me to tell you that the eyes and hopes of the world are upon you. To act with all dispatch and decisively, because time has quite literally run out. The recent IPCC report gave us a clear diagnosis of the scale of the problem, we know what we must do. With a growing global population creating ever-increasing demand on the planet's finite resources, we have to reduce emissions urgently and take action to tackle the carbon already in the atmosphere, including from coal-fired power stations.
Now, the reason I played the clip is because he said they had to take a military campaign, a warlike footing, to tackle this idea of the problem of climate change. But notice he uses the word energy and coal. Now, what are we seeing as a result of the war in Russia? We are seeing gas prices skyrocketing. We're seeing an attack on natural resources. This is a war over energy. It all goes back to the climate change agenda, which we know they will use as a humanitarian social justice effort to reshape the world, causing their Great Reset. So, in conclusion, you take the World Economic Forum with Klaus Schwab, whose ultimate goal is a Great Reset, a one world government, and then you take his friendship with Russia and Russia's efforts to start a war with Ukraine, and this whole theatrics with NATO versus Russia and America versus Russia, and then you have these theatrics with China and Taiwan. All of the power players are all in this together. They are truly all in this together to bring about the fourth kingdom, the Daniel 7 prophecy, the AntiChrist Kingdom. Again, this is another tribulation shadow. When you begin to put the connect the dots together, brothers and sisters, you can see that despite what the MSM says about what's happening in Russia, we know prophetically, we know biblically that all of these world leaders are moved by the prince of the power of the air, which is Satan himself. We know that the rapture of the church will help them further their crisis. Remember, problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem, they watch the reaction, and they have their own solution. Brothers and sisters, this should be no surprise to any discerning, Bible-born-again, rapture-ready remnant Christian. We can see how all these powers are working together, especially with Israel. They may claim to be friends with Israel, but they will turn their backs on Israel in a heartbeat, as we will see prophetically in the Psalm 83 war, Ezekiel 38 and 39, and the destruction of Damascus, such as Isaiah 17. Continue to watch how Prince Charles, the World Economic Forum, the European Union, Klaus Schwab, Russia, China, and even the American administration, this current administration, all work together to bring about the downfall of this current world order, to bring about a new world order in which they call building back better, but we know it's actually building back worse. Again, look to the skies, your redemption draws near. God bless.